are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us, viewers and listeners. As always, we are back in Canton, Ohio. It's another beautiful Friday morning, afternoon, or evening. Whenever you choose to consume the content, we appreciate it. Just go ahead and push that subscribe button right below. That's going to help us out more than you guys could ever know. We have another great guest on the platform today. We have Matt Plapp, marketer, CrossFitter, speaker, author, father, CEO of America's Best Restaurants. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, I'm heading your way in like 3 hours. I'm going to be in Cleveland tonight. That's near Canton, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a 45-minute drive just north. Are you coming up 71?
I have no clue. My wife's in charge. We're going for a college visit. So yeah, I'm heading up your way. You mentioned father in there. So I just landed from New York from filming some stuff with the History Channel, and now we're driving north to go to a college visit. I think it's Lourdes University. Does that sound right? You ever heard of that?
Lourdes, yeah, Lourdes. Yep. I think Lourdes University. Yeah, I'm familiar with the name, not necessarily the campus or anything, but that'll be a good time, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. But hey, thanks for having me on.
Of course. We'll get right into it here. I did just want to reference a Cincinnati native, kind of south of the border, just there, northern Kentucky. You got a big Chilli battleground down there. We got, Gold Star, Skyline, all the big name brands. What we got a top three for us, or how are we feeling about the competition down there?
It's funny you ask that, because most people have never heard of what any of it is, and when they actually come in town, they're like, "What do you mean chili dog?" Like they've seen it at a beach before, but not like this. But I'm a Dixie Chili guy. That's a local. Well, they're all local. It's a smaller. I think they're 3 location. At one point, they might have had 5 or 6. It's in northern Kentucky, where I'm at on this side of the Ohio River. We call the best side. But yeah, Gold Star, Skyline, they're all good. If I had to pick my top, I would say Dixie Chili's number 1. And then I would probably go Empress Chili's, another smaller one over here, number 2. And then I would probably say Skyline 3, Gold Star 4.
All right. I just want a little input. We're just trying to settle some debates around the office and see what we could get done there. When I was a student at Ohio University, I had a buddy who I roomed with sophomore year, Cincinnati native as well, and his parents used to ship us the little cans, like store-bought cans of Skyline chili, and we would mix those up in the dorm room. Probably some like illegal microwaves at the time. I know you're usually not supposed to have those, but we got away with it, and always made for some good memories. So I'm happy we could discuss that real quick. I did want to obviously now just kind of get into your background a little bit. CEO of America's Best Restaurants. You have multiple decades of this point of experience, and on the website mattplapp.com, it mentions you kind of accidentally becoming a master of digital marketing around 2008. Can you just walk me through what the accidental process there and what exactly made you consider yourself an expert in the digital marketing field?
Cool. Appreciate it. So it was around 2003 or 4 that really I accidentally figured out kind of the formula. So my background is going back to 1999. I worked in radio advertising. At the same exact time when I was in radio, I bought a book from a client of mine who bought radio ads from me, a small couple location retail shop that sold computer supplies. And back then, there was no Best Buy, I believe, selling computer stuff. It was not much out there at all. And so Glenn Warner had S&S computers. I bought a book from him on Adobe PageMill, and that was a web design platform. And I built the website. And if you know me, I'm not a technical guy. I don't change my oil. I don't mow my grass. I'm not a computer guy. I've learned enough to be dangerous because it was part of my DNA. But I built the website in 1999. And while I was working in radio, my dad and my brother and I started an online boat dealership. So to put that in perspective, in 1999, somehow I had the wherewithal, me and my dad and brother, that we started a company called Outdoor Consignments, where we were selling boats and campers online, not physical presence, but literally you go to outdoorconsignments.com. There's the boat I like. They call us up. We negotiate buying it from a consumer because it was a consignment unit, and then go from there. Well, that grew to a $15 million year business, 3 locations. And then we exited it in 2008. We were getting out anyways. We just had the unfortunate circumstance that the economy crashed while we were exiting. So it made the exit a little quicker and with a lot less money in our pockets. So I can appreciate where restaurants are at with 2020, 21, and 22, because that summer of 2008, I was 1 million shy in my pocket by the end of the summer. Like, not a made up paper number, $1 million that would have been in my pocket. had the summer went as planned when we closed the dealership, but the economy crashed and we dumped a lot of money back into the business thinking we were saving it, and it was a bad idea. But in that process around 2002, 2003, we kept having viruses pop up on our computer all the time. And I called Glenn from SNS and I said, man, are you planting these viruses on my computer? What's going on? I'm not understanding what's going on here. And he's like, man, I'm not planting viruses on your computer. And so he came in and he put a software on that tracked our employees' usage of the internet. And we had about 40 employees that time. We let them all know, hey, when you put your username and your password, that is unique to you. We're not worried about what you're doing on the internet except for one thing. We got to find out where the virus is coming from. Well, we found where the virus was coming from, fixed it. We got rid of her. She was downloading some different types of material that would cause them problems. Well, whole different podcast, probably more for like the Joe Rogan world now. And so the next step was about a month later, Glenn comes back with this binder, and I wish I still had it. It was about this thick, and he's like, hey, Matt, I know you'll love this. Your dad will want to fire everybody. You'll love it. I'm like, what is it? He goes, this is a binder of all of the internet usage by your employees the past couple months, but it's categorized by chat rooms. I'm like, it's a chat room. Because I mean, I didn't know it. I wasn't real big on the internet back then at that capacity. Well, chat rooms are what Facebook and Instagram and all the groups are now. Yeah, was back then. Yeah, back then you had Bass Boat Central, and you probably still have them, I would imagine, but that's all there was back. There wasn't a Facebook group to argue about which bass boat was better back then. There was a private chat room on a website. And so when he showed this to me, there was about 20 websites in there, these chat rooms that were very specific to what we did for a living. Bass boats, campers, ATVs. So I took that as an opportunity to get in that world a little better. So started doing some research on them. For whatever reason, every one of these chat rooms had this $500 fee annually, which to me, coming from the radio background, $500 was 3 commercials. And they're like, hey, $500 a year, and you're the exclusive Triton dealer or Yamaha dealer. And all we ask is that you always have your correct name. So you can't have a nickname. It's got to be like your name, Matt Plapp, a link to your website, and you cannot sell, which worked perfect because our company motto was all about education. Hey, somebody comes in here to buy a bass boat. We're not going to negative sell the competitor. We're going to educate on what's out there, and they can make their decision. So I would call in our employees one by one. I go, hey, man, Richie, I got a problem. What, man? Well, we got the sponsorship of fishing.com. Oh, yeah, I'm on it every day. I'm like, oh, you are? I didn't know that. Well, cool. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't have a binder. He didn't know. And they had already forgotten about us tracking their usage because it was long gone. And so I convinced all the different employees. I think it was like 14 of them that I said, hey, I need you to check out these sites every hour. Because in the retail world, like unlike the restaurant world where people are constantly coming and going, in the retail world, you might have 3 hours when you're selling boats and there's nobody in their store. And so instead of sitting there twiddling your thumbs, hey, get on fishing.com, have as many conversations as possible, no selling, be cool, be informative. They all have to have a link to our website. Well, flash forward about 4 or 5 months after this, and this is like 2003-ish probably. We're in Nashville, Tennessee. A guy named Ben Jarrett, who was the head of Yamaha Marine at that point. We were the number 3 Yamaha dealership in the country for outboard motors, which was a huge deal out of 4,000 or 5,000. And so we always were like walking the line of what you could or couldn't do marketing. Because back then the internet was so new that all of our competitors, majority of them, didn't even have websites. And so the fact that we had a website with our inventory updated every day with chat room activity was an anomaly. Well, Ben walks up and we always kind of had our hand slapped. We were doing things dealers would call and complain. And I'm like, I'm just using what's out there. And so comes over and goes, Matt, I need to show you something. I said, okay, cool. What you got? And he goes, I'm going to go to this website. It's called Google. And I'm like, I've never heard of it. And I literally hit. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. And so he goes to google.com and he types in Yamaha 4-stroke motors. Well, number 1 comes up our site, Plapps.com. And we had our company at the time was Plapps for Outdoors. And I'm like, I didn't do it. He's like, yeah, you did. I'm like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, you did. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know this stuff, Ben. He's like, you're not in trouble. I'm like, okay, I did it. And so he said, I need you to do me a favor. We were on this group called the Symposium 20. It was basically the top 20 Yamaha dealerships would get together every quarter, typically like in Atlantic City or Yamaha. And we would, for 5 days, meet with different experts in different fields. So parts, service, accessories, boat sales, motor sales, marketing. I was the marketing guy of the 20, which was pretty cool. I look back at it now. I was in my, 2013. So that's 19 years ago. I'm 46. So I was like my mid 20s. And I'm the top expert for marketing for Yamaha dealers across the country out of thousands, which I even said that's the first time I've said it out loud. It's kind of cool. And So I was in charge of putting together tips and tricks. He said, hey, I need you to go back and figure. He's like, I know you're not smart enough to know how you did this. I'm like, no, I have no clue. And he goes, I need you to go back and figure out how you're number one everywhere on the internet right now for anything we search Yamaha. I'm like, okay. So I go back and I talk to Glenn, and Glenn's like, Matt, it's called SEO. I'm like, yeah, don't know what that is. He's like, it's search engine optimization that Google, when somebody goes to Google or AOL or Yahoo, I think there was even Bing back then maybe, and they search for a topic, they look for the biggest expert. Well, in their eyes, because of your massive activity in these chat rooms, he's like, dude, look at the numbers. You've got thousands of posts a week on these chat rooms by your employees, and they all are topical. They have keywords about like the Yamaha motors, the prop, the speed, the oil, the gas, whatever. And they're all linking to your company website. Yamaha, on the other hand, has no inbound links, has nobody causing chatter. And so in Google's mind, you guys are the biggest asset on the internet for this topic. And that happened for about 3 years, because when I learned what that meant, I just threw gas on the fire. And so when I did that, by 2004 and 5, and I got framed in our headquarters here, these big pictures from Boat and Motor Dealer, Cincinnati Enquirer, Cincinnati Business Courier. I had been interviewed everywhere how this one location mom and pop boat dealership was selling boats nationwide on the internet. And we were doing it for high profit margin. We weren't like, selling them and undercutting people. We were just, people wanted to be associated with us. So when I figured that out, a lot of my former radio clients from the 1990s and early 2000s, because I did that from 99 to 2003. I did the boat dealership double 99 to 08. I did 2 jobs for 4 years in essence, basically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the radio station, then 7 p.m. to midnight during the weeks, and then weekends for the boat dealership. But when it got to a point where around 2006 or 7, my former radio clients started calling me and going, dude, I'll give you a free car. Teach me this internet thing. We'll come landscape your house, do this. I didn't need money. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So I was just getting all sorts of perks in exchange for teaching them what the internet was. Well, by the time 2008 came, I had already started this company now that we have. Our parent name is Driven Media. I had started that consulting businesses I knew, and we wanted to exit the boat dealership. And then, from 08 to 2015, we worked with all sorts of businesses in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area. And then 2015, we decided to shift to just restaurants. So by 2017, we shifted to America's Best Restaurants. And here we are 5 years later. What started with one employee, 14 years ago, me, I think 11 years ago, added Ashley, my second full-time employee. I actually pulled my payroll up because we started using this platform called Gusto in October 2017. And our payroll was 1 full-timer and 4 part-timers. And I did our payroll the other day, and we're up to, between a couple contractors, full and part-time, we're above like 52 people.
I mean, that's a unbelievable origin story, and just the whole background to how you got to where you are today. Yep. and the grind that came behind it. It's unbelievable to actually hear about. And obviously you kind of gave us the catalyst now to where we're in the realm of restaurants right now. Yep. Now we have the fruition of America's Best Restaurants. And why was that the industry you felt compelled to delve into? What was your earliest experience with restaurants as a whole?
So I've always been around restaurants, and I didn't realize it until probably 2017 or 18, like how much I had been around it on accident. Because you don't realize that you're in these situations until you look back and go, okay, well, my dad had an insurance company growing up, and he had it for 20 something years. And the majority, he was a big B2B guy. He wasn't giving consumers car insurance. They did that, but his specialty was the B2B side. And so he had, you mentioned the chili companies. He had every Gold Star chili insured back in the 80s. He had Barleycorns insured, Mike Fink's. He had all these restaurants insured. And his whole tactic was, I used to joke when I was a kid, my mom, we all thought my mom couldn't cook. It was that my dad saw more value in her and him, because they were business partners, being at restaurants with their clients and networking than they did at home cooking. And so I grew up as a kid at restaurants every night. And so I was around independent restaurants all the time. And so I think that was the start of it. And then as I got into radio, when I started in radio advertising in 99, one of the things that was unique in the radio space was that every client that was being courted were the car dealerships that were dropping $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Well, they were all taken. So here I am, this rookie in the restaurant space. And I had to find clients, and I looked, and I'm like, nobody's calling on restaurants. Like, all restaurants are useless. They're cheap. They won't spend money. They're a headache. They're all one location. And I'm like, there's still an opportunity probably. So I started making relationships with some restaurants I really liked and kind of looked at the ones I thought were solid operators that could use a little bump. And I created packages that were, instead of selling them $5,000 a month like the car dealer, I'm like, hey, I got a $500 a month idea for you. We don't need to be on Monday through Sunday. Let's pick a day part, Sunday and Monday at 2:00, and let's drive your late afternoon, food. And so the idea was to find opportunity. Well, that just happened to connect me with a lot of restaurant owners. And so next thing I know, I've got 15 or 20 restaurants that I'm doing trade and cash for, became good friends with them. And then when I started my consulting business, one of my first businesses back in 08, 09 was a burger joint that I happened to go to because a friend of mine shared a coupon they had on Facebook, a place called Bard's Burgers. They had this thing for like buy one, get one free burger. I had never heard of the place. And he raved about it. Well, that's the value of social media, the transfer of trust, the online referral, the word of mouth, as it is now, 2022. So, and I don't know if it was Steve Eichhoff. Steve had shared it, and Steve's nephew actually works for me now. But Steve had shared it on Facebook, and I went there, and we're eating, and it's awesome. And I saw the owner in it because he could tell who they were. And I said, "You're the owner, right?" Yeah. I said, "Hey, I want to give you a tip. Where I got this coupon is from a Facebook personal profile. So this is a person named Bard's Burgers. If Facebook finds this, they will shut it down. It needs to be a business page." I don't know how to do that. I'm like, I can show you. I'm like, well, dude, he's like, I'm the most computer literate person ever. He said, can I pay you? I said, well, you can't afford me, because I was cognizant of what I was charging and what we were doing. I'm like, this place doesn't need to be paying Matt Plapp. So you know what though? Give me $250 a month in food gift certificates, and we'll do whatever you need done on social media. And so we did. And so they were a client for, probably 2 years, to where they ended up getting sold, and the new people came in and didn't appreciate what we were doing. I'm like, that's fine. But we had free food every month basically, and ran their stuff and changed their, tweaked and went from a person to a business page, which was a big thing back then. Nowadays, you don't see it much. And then at that point, picked up some other restaurant clients, Hofbrauhaus, Pittsburgh, Newport, Columbus. We did a little with Hofbrauhaus Cleveland. We did Quaker Steak and Lube for 3 stores. And just by 2015, we had did a promotion with Hofbrauhaus on National Pretzel Day. And it was the first time I had seen marketing go from a message to somebody giving us their information to walking in the restaurant in mass. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool, because we did car dealer marketing. We had 46 car dealerships. And when you ran marketing on Facebook or YouTube or Google for a car dealer, they had to fill the form out to get info on the car. And so you could see attribution of ran an ad, got somebody to fill out the form, salesman called them and sold them a car. And it was cool to see that. Well, in the restaurants, most retail businesses, that didn't exist. And in the restaurant space, it didn't exist. So when I saw this promotion we did, and it was April 26, 2015, National Pretzel Day with Hofbrauhaus, where we saw $18,000 in incremental sales that wasn't happening outside of this promotion in one day, I realized we were on to something. And I said, okay, what can we can take this and transfer this to all of our restaurant clients, but it's not going to work for a car dealer. And so we just shifted the model. And from 2015 to 17, which was a hard process, we went from 40 or so traditional retail businesses to just restaurants, and then exploded nationwide.
That's unbelievable. And you kind of led me right into what I wanted to talk about next, which is you've referenced in the past, how you began very locally, and then obviously over the past few years have really expanded nationally at a pretty unbelievable rate. And you guys are, you're flying, you're driving, you're taking the Sprinter vans out to these clients, out to these restaurants, these customers, and you're doing the live in-person contact. And if anyone goes to your guys' website, you go to the restaurant, the partner page, you're scrolling through restaurant after restaurant. You guys have it broken down by state. You click on the state, and you can scroll through restaurants by there. And, you're breaking things down by experience, by dishes to try, all that good stuff. It's really unbelievable, everything you guys are doing for them. And to get to where I want to just ask this initial question is, was the idea or the dream, I guess, initially to always be doing in-person content with these restaurants? Was it always the initial thought that, hey, we need to be out there in the field visiting these folks in person, making the restaurant content with them and having it produced for them?
No, it really wasn't, honestly. Our roots of our company were a local marketing firm where we did all of that. Well, in 2016, 17, as we started to evolve into being national, we had a really unique tactic for gathering customer data in store, your website, and social media that led people to an upfront sale and a metric that customers could see. Oh, okay, we spent this $1,000 and this 4 came back, and we now have their data. So we became a kind of a one-trick pony. We literally took what we did for Hofbrauhaus. Like we had these 51 items that we did, and we boiled it down to the 13 that could be replicated nationwide remotely, that we didn't have to be on site. That was a key element for us scaling. Well, what we figured out during the pandemic was, as we looked at because our model was, hey, if I've got 10 restaurants here, if I can get 10 in 500 cities, we'll be doing pretty good.
Right.
And as the pandemic hit, I guess back up a little, 2018, as I was traveling for my first book, I would do iPhone interviews. I always came across restaurants that had read my book, that were watching our content, that were clients of ours I hadn't met yet. And so if I flew into their city, like I flew into New Jersey 2 days ago, and a client from Philadelphia drove over and had dinner with me along with a referral partner from New Jersey, and we had dinner. And so I would do that. I would get my phone out. I would do an interview with them, and people kept going, oh, this is really cool. I didn't know the story of the restaurant. I didn't know that, because the restaurant would share it. I would share it on personal. They would share on their restaurant page, and people kept asking for more of that content. So I created the brand America's Best Restaurants back then. And the goal was to create a website that was a catalog of restaurants that we knew, that we had talked to, that we liked, and that there was no consumer input. Well, as I started doing it in 2018, I realized that Matt Plapp was never going to visit 10,000, because my number was, there's got to be 10,000 awesome restaurants that we can go to. And I realized that I was never going to have the capacity to visit 10,000 restaurants, nor did I have the money to do it the right way, because back then we had just americasbestrestaurants.net, and it was a pretty lame site, and the content was not quality enough for consumers to really get excited about, because they're comparing it to diners, drive-ins, and dives and places like that on Food Network. But I'm like, what if I can create the poor man's diners, drive-ins, and dives that's meant to be consumed on a phone, but at the same time connect it to a directory and tell consumers, you don't need reviews. Here's the story of the owner. Here's why you should go eat there, and here's where they're at. Well, 18 and 19, we didn't have the money to do it right. So we just kind of did it as a hobby, I guess you could say. 2020, the pandemic came around, and I had a couple of my team members analyze. I went to them and said, hey, here's 25 restaurants that look identical to these 25. Location, type of food, type of service, demographics around the restaurant are the same. Why are these 25 sucking and these 25 are doing great? They're all using our one tool, those 13 tactics. Some of them are using, 5 of the 13 really good. Some are using all 13. But what's the differentiator? Well, the differentiator was the other 38 tactics. I call them 51 blue ocean tactics. Like, you've got the blue water behind you. I call it, there's a book called Red Ocean, Blue Ocean. And the idea of it is doing things nobody else is doing to separate your business, whether it's your offer or your marketing. Well, when we had, Hofbrauhaus as a client, and we were doing the acquisition program for them, we were also doing their live video. We were also helping them do events. We were helping them do community involvement. We were buying radio, TV. We were doing all of this stuff. Well, what we found in 2020 was that the problem was the restaurants that were not having the success the other ones were, they weren't doing anything. They were doing our one little program and thinking that was going to be the end all be all. It's like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat like crap. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to stretch. I'm going to sleep terrible. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to chew tobacco. But damn it, I went to the gym and did bench press. You're still going to be fat eventually. And so that's what we found was happening with our restaurant clients, is that we had become a one-trick pony, that they were as a crutch. And so we said, you know what? There's 2 ways we can change this. The 2 ways we can change this is that we can, number one, go from being a one-trick pony with those 13 tools and go to 51, showcase the 51. Here's what we did at Hofbrauhaus. Here's why their stuff worked so well. And then the other aspect of it was we saw that they didn't have content. And I said, I got an idea. I want to resurrect America's Best Restaurants, the roadshow. And in order to do it, it's going to take a lot of money. So we've invested about $1.4 million right now in the last 14 months.
Wow.
And that's like not a BS number. It's $1.4 million that if it wasn't spent on the roadshow, it'd be in Matt Plapp's pocket. And it was painful for me to accept that, because I've always been a cheap ass. And I've always invested in our business, but I like 5-6 years ago, I had this problem where I would look at like $5,000 invested this month. That $5,000 could do this month. Well, instead, I needed to look at that $5,000 invested this month could create $1 million in 2 years.
Right. Rate of
Well,
return.
when I decided, year and a half, 2 years ago, I said, okay, we're going to resurrect America's Best Restaurants Roadshow. I'm going to buy a motorhome. We're going to go nationwide with it. Well, then my employers are like, I can't drive a motorhome. I'm like, what do you mean? It's not that big a deal. Like, dude, I can't drive my car very good. And so we were a motorhome dealership, and we were a boat and RV dealership. And I started thinking, okay, what size motorhome would they drive? And then I clicked. I'm like, the Sprinter vans, the Mercedes Sprinter vans. We'll get one, a limo style, have it wrapped. It's a great billboard. And that's easy to drive because it's not much bigger than a car. And sure enough, now we have 2 of them. The goal is to have, I got to have 3 more by the end of this year, early next year to do what we want to do. But we should have 5 to 6 in the next 6 months, and 10 or so in the next 2 years. I had this vision a year and a half ago. I was going to have 50 of them in 5 years. And then I realized the logistics of how we can cover, like one van can cover 4 states the way we do it. And so we don't need that many, and we've slowed our roll on the number of vans. But those vans leave, like it's on the way back right now. It was in Madison, Wisconsin and Milwaukee, Wisconsin area this whole week. And so it's up there filming content, because that was a big key component we saw also, is that I wanted to resurrect America. We had the money now too, by the way, to buy americasbestrestaurants.com a year and a half ago. Had the money to put together the proper branding and the trademarks and have the site built correctly to where we could literally database the restaurants. Like, our whole goal is by the end of this year, early next year, I want to publish a list of about 10,000 restaurants on there and tell consumers, these are the places that we have found that we feel strongly about. We've only been to like right now, I think we're on pace to hit around 1,100 by the end of the year that we've been to. And to put that in perspective, Guy Fieri had made a comment a couple months ago when I was down there interviewing him. He had said in one of the other interviews that they had did 1,300 restaurants in 16 years for Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Wow.
We're on pace to hit that number in a year and a half. And so the volume we're doing is pretty cool. And we basically go there, chronicle the story of the owner, because the owners don't tell their stories. We also help them capture a lot of content that they own, they can use on social media. And then we also help them launch marketing programs to leverage the content. Like, we had a restaurant I posted the other day that in 4 Facebook posts, just 4 simple Facebook posts, which is, if you look at the entire marketing picture, 4 Facebook posts is minute. But there's 4 Facebook posts. Actually, I'm gonna go to Facebook so I can give you the exact number, because this is important. And this was, a big deal for me to see this type of reaction from consumers, because this is literally 4 posts that were made telling consumers about their involvement with our company for us showing up to film. So let me go on here. I make a lot of social media posts. My team does. So there's typically too much on here. Let me see if I can find the
I think I know
thing.
the post you're referencing. Those like multiple thousands of the hits and the views and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it was, well, of course I can't find it. I was on Saturday. I made the post. It was, here we go. What day is this? August 11th. No, I might have already missed it. So it was 2,000 engagements. I'm going to kick myself in the butt. I can't find this freaking post. I just looked at it the other day, but it was 2,000 engagements. It was, not even counting the video. The one video was up to 25,000 views, but it was 2,000 engagements. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple hundred shares. It was a lot of comments, a lot of reactions. And it was all based around that restaurant being recognized by a higher authority in the consumer's mind, America's Best Restaurants, and also the fact that the owner was telling their story. Yeah, here it is. So it was 1,934 post reactions, 550 comments, 298 shares on 4 posts, one of which was a video that I can't see the views on it, but that was just us telling the consumers, hey, we have identified this restaurant. We're showing up. We're going to film our show there. It's going to air in about 2 months on their channel. We air it on their Facebook page because we want them to own the spotlight. And that's just the simple aspect there, but that's how powerful these mediums can be.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And like you're focusing on towards the end there, a lot of what I see from you is asking these restaurant partners, these customers, these ownership groups to source the content themselves and tell their own story, really engage with their own customers and make sure the mouthpiece is themselves. So, you're getting the origin story like we're having with you today. You're getting the actual, development of the store from creation to where it is now. Why is it so important, do you think, that the voice is actually the owners themselves or the managers of the restaurant themselves?
I can't figure out why every independent owner isn't on the rooftop yelling and screaming about their business. It blows my mind. The number of places, like we when we were testing this concept, early last year, we would show up and like owner be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to have this person do this." Well, who's this? Well, that's one of my managers. Your manager can tell your story. Are you on drugs? Like, this is your business. If somebody contacts my company for anything, Matt Plapp is the person they talk to. Like, you're not interviewing Doug Smith on my team. You're not interviewing, Ashley Mullins on my team. You're interviewing Matt Plapp because it's my brand. It's, Matt Plapp wears Matt Plapp's logo. Matt Plapp drives vehicles with Matt Plapp on them and with America's Best Restaurants. And so the fact that a lot of restaurants aren't, screaming with a megaphone, and I don't mean like screaming, yelling, like from the rooftops about their business, why they don't take that crazy pride, because most restaurants, it's a struggle. It's a grind that first 2, 3, 4 years. And yet every time I see restaurant owners on the street, they're not rocking their own gear. They're not in wrapped cars. They're not on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube doing video, telling stories. They're just asking people to come buy food with lame ass social media posts. So for me, it was important that we talk to the operators. And I'll give you a story on why it's important. You've heard of Jack Harlow, right? The rapper?
Of course.
So he's a Kentucky boy. And my son, about 2 months ago, it was ironic. It was the 2 days before I was down in Tennessee doing an interview with Guy Fieri at downtown Flavortown, a restaurant we work with that he's associated with. And my son was laughing that I was listening to Jack Harlow. And I said, "What's so funny?" He goes, I don't get your connection. Like, what he's a good rapper, but why do you like him? And I said, "Well, I don't love his music necessarily. Why do you listen?" I said, "Because I love his story." Have you ever heard his story?
I knew he was from Kentucky previously, but that's about as far as I got.
When he was 12 years old, he went home to his mom and dad and told his mom, "I want to become the world's best rapper." She said, "Okay." It takes 10,000 hours to become an expert. Practice rapping 6 hours a day. Most kids at that age, when they say to do that, like, I want to become a great basketball player, 9.9 out of 10 kids like shoot hoops for a couple weeks and they're done.
Right.
The dude didn't. He was dropping mixtapes in 6th and 7th and 8th grade. He was getting laughed at and made fun of his freshman and sophomore year. And by the time he was 16, he was packing out like churches and nightclub, little tiny clubs. And next thing you know, here he is. I think he's 22 right now, and he's on tour and with Drake and Jay-Z and Kanye West, and he is a world famous rapper. So I told my son, I said, the reason his music connects with me and I like it is I know his story. It means more. And, I don't know Nicki Minaj's story. Maybe there's a great story there, but I look at her music, I look at her, and I'm like, I'll pass. But I know Jack Harlow's story. And Guy Fieri said the same thing. I asked him this exact question. I said, why is it important for an independent mom and pop restaurant to be active on social media telling their story? And he said, "Matt, food tastes different when you know where it came from. Just like a song sounds different when you know the artist's journey, when you know that this is a 4th generation Italian family, the food hits differently than if it's Fazoli's from a drive-through."
Of course.
And that's a key differentiator that we all have. Like, I sound different when people hear my background than the CEO of Uber Eats, because there's a much different path and there's a much different story, and people can relate more to it. Now, Alex, that's just an example. I don't know his story. He might be the same as me, but I'm just saying when they picture these big brands out there, and I think that's a key element. And that's a key element that restaurants are missing. They do not tell their story enough. And more importantly, they don't put themselves in the limelight. Ironically, before I was on this call, and I'm going out after this, we're filming videos we have ABR University, which is a membership that we have for our clients, and then some people that come in through webinars that teaches them how to do certain things, those 51 tactics. And one of them today that we're recording is video marketing. And one of the things I put in there, one of the videos I just shot before I came on here, I said the biggest, most important reason I want you to record video for your content, for your restaurant, is that there's 3 very important places that you are not getting the opportunity to tell your story at without video. Number 1, YouTube. Number 2, TikTok. And then Facebook and Instagram Reels. So by you not, or Facebook Reels and Instagram Stories and Facebook Stories, whatever you call them, by you not having video, you're not on those platforms. And the 4 most popular platforms right now are YouTube, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and then Facebook.
And I do want to reference back there to when you began that answer the first question. You mentioned you don't see owners wearing their branding, wearing their logo, wrapping their vehicles, and you're literally doing the exact opposite with ABR, right? You got the hoodie on, you got the shoes, you got the car, you got the vans, everything in the bright orange, the bright blue. Why is that aspect of it so important to you, and why do you think why do you go about it that way?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to consistency and standing out. One of the reasons we picked orange is it found me, so it picked me, but it's been around me for a long time, and there's all these different stories about it with how I've popped up with orange stuff here, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's orange. Even to the point, like my jump rope recently, I'm like, oh, my jump rope's orange. Like, you notice things. Like, how does this keep happening?
It comes to fruition now.
It just comes. And so like, only wall, it's ironic, is I don't have orange on my wall here. It's on that wall and that wall. And we have 9,000 square feet here, and probably 30% of the walls are orange or blue. But the reason to me it's important is that it ties everything together. And so for Matt Plapp, I wear orange every day. Like, I've got an orange sweatshirt on right now.
Oh yeah.
I wear orange Jordan. I wear orange Jordans every day. I've got an orange t-shirt underneath here, which matches the logo. Everything is about that. And you wouldn't believe the number of people who it starts conversation. Today on my plane, it started a conversation with the guy next to me, with the flight attendant. When I'm in restaurants, when I'm out and about, people ask, what's up? Because they can make a connection. What do you got going on here? And like, I was actually in a restaurant one time and got 2 applications from people in the restaurant for a job at our company based off the conversation that was started by them asking who we were and what we did, because obviously something's going on with you wearing what you wear. It's just as simple as a shirt and shoes, but you just don't see it and it sticks out. So like for a restaurant, it's the same thing. If you're a restaurant owner and you've got I happen to know one who has a kid that used to go to school with my kid, and I would see him at sporting events, and I'd see him at different things around the school and around the community. Never anything with their stuff. They're rocking a polo shirt. They're rocking something for Abercrombie and Fitch. I'm like, are they paying you?
Yeah.
Are they paying your bill? Because when I'm out and about, I want everybody to know Matt Plapp in America's Best Restaurants. And I'm a national company. So if I'm that restaurant owner and I'm XYZ restaurant in that small community, you better bet that my vehicle is going to be wrapped. Like, I crack up, people are amazed. Like, one of my cars is a Lamborghini, and they're like, it's expensive. Yes, it is. But it's not, when reality, I closed a $250,000 deal recently because of it. That's what got the person to drive to my office and have a meeting with me, that they wanted to see the car. And so like, if you're a restaurant, why aren't you spending a couple grand a month on a car? Oh, it's too expensive. No, it's too expensive for you to leave dollars on the table. Like, when we had our boat dealership, we had 2 yellow Hummers. This guy, I told Max, my videographer today, we're coming back from getting our lunch after we landed at the airport, went to a place we get smoothies and acai bowls, and there's a yellow Hummer at the stop. Like, oh, it's one of our old Hummers. I said, I'll tell you a funny story about branding, Max. We had 2 wrapped yellow Hummers. I'm at the Columbus Boat Show, and this is a dead honest story. I'm not making this up, but it's funny as can be, and it tells you your exact point. Guy walks up and goes, Matt, what's up, brother? I saw one of your Hummers yesterday in West Virginia. And I'm like, West Virginia? Like, we're both in Columbus, right? We've been here for like 3 days. And I'm trying to think, did somebody steal our stuff? And I go, you did? Where? He goes, oh, I was on the turnpike, but it didn't have your logos on it. And I'm like, so you just saw a yellow Hummer? Yeah. But he associated it with us because at that point, for about 3 years, we had 2 yellow Hummers. We had wrapped yellow and red boats that matched the company Hummer, and they went everywhere. So to him, the yellow Hummer was us. It wasn't even wrapped. And I'm just like, wow, if that's not a marketing 101 right there, then I don't know what is. And so if you think about that from a local standpoint, that every restaurant that we deal with for the most part is a local standpoint, that most 90% of their business comes within 3 to 5 miles, probably even 1 to 2 miles of the restaurant. how they do not all have a bright red or yellow or green or blue or orange Corvette with their logo on the side of it going back and forth. I don't care if they're broke as shit. They ought to have it, because that right there would now separate their dealer, their restaurant from anybody else, and would get them massive attention. Then you just tie them with everything else. If I owned a pizza place down the street that I won't mention that's red and blue, I'd have a red Corvette. I'd be rocking red and blue every day. I mean, I wear this when I go to the gym. I have blue logoed shorts. I have my orange shirt, and I have a pair of orange gym shoes. When I'm at the pool, I have orange swim trunks. When I'm in my house in the morning drinking my coffee, which I usually do from 5 to 9 at the house before I come to the office, I'm wearing an orange sweatshirt and my gray sweatpants with my logo. I'd say no, 99.9% of my life, the last 3 years, you won't find me wearing something that's not around our brand.
And I think just doubling back on how you started that statement, really that just speaks to the consistency and the commitment you have for your business, and really looking forward to the results that the branding and the marketing can give you to reaching your end goal. It's obviously not a lot of people are doing it. I think Deliver That realistically in a lot of aspects could do a much better job. I'm wearing the black, but I mean, that's not our main color. I got to Deliver That, but like you said, you got the bright orange all the time. So I think it's definitely something a lot of people can work on.
Yeah, go bright blue. Go blue. Like, seriously, look at a picture. Go online and look at a conference. Like, Google right now, conference, whatever. I'll send you a picture of me when I was on a stage at an event with about 10 people recently, and everybody had gray and black on. Like, I'm almost orange. I'm at Grant Cardone's event a couple months ago with 1,200 people there, and some guy jokingly sends me a text message while I'm at the event of a little orange dot in the background, and jokingly says, "Hey, it looks like you're in Miami. Ha ha, just kidding." And I'm like, no, that actually is me. There's the only person in the crowd with orange. Everybody else is black and gold. Like, so you should have like that canopy behind you should be your color. Bright blue, J's every day, bright blue shirt with Deliver That in black. It'll look different. And if you live it, you eat, sleep, drink it, people will catch on.
Yeah, that baby blue and that bright orange will stand out amongst the crowd no matter what. Again, Matt, I appreciate you taking the time here. Obviously, we're actually on take 2. The people wouldn't know that, but I'll let them know now. We're actually doing a retake here today due to some technical difficulties last week. So I can't speak to obviously your professionalism and your help here for us enough. So I really do appreciate you. And I want to just give you one last closing here to shout out, your socials, your website, anything you want the people to be able to navigate to. Take a moment to do that, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so just check out mattplapp.com. It's the easiest place to find me, mattplapp.com. And you can find all my socials. I'm active on, my brand is active. I personally am not active on social media. I have 3 people that do all my stuff.
You got people doing that for you.
Huh?
You got people doing that for you nowadays.
I realized my bandwidth is better used in other things, and I don't consume the news or anything else. And like, I made 2 Facebook posts today, and that's the first time I made posts in probably a week. But my team does a lot of stuff. But if you message me there, it'll get to me. Email matt@mattplapp.com is a way to reach me there. You can check out americasbestrestaurants.com. We have different events every week, webinars, things like that. But check out americasbestrestaurants.com, and you'll see what we're doing. And if I can be of help of anybody, I'm here. I'm an open book. And like you said, we had this recording difficulty last time, and here we are again. But, we've all been there. You're taking action, and I can appreciate that, because most people just don't take action. They're scared of imperfection, and they let that hold them back. So don't let it hold you back. And I appreciate having me on.
All right, man. Yeah, thanks so much again. I look forward to working together in the future, and we'll let the people do what they do and view this, review it, comment, and hopefully they enjoy the interview, man. We'll see you very soon. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, brother.